What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the PFF NFL show, postseason edition. We got the wild card round that we're talking about here on our grades release show. We're going to give you the top 5 graded players for every single team in every single matchup, break all of them down, and figure out why the result happened the way that it did. We'll give you a stat that told the story. We'll give you most impressive, most disappointing, all the stuff that you guys have come to love over the regular season, just amped up because it's the playoffs, baby. Dalton, I know you're feeling a little under the weather here. We've got the appropriate amount of distance between the two of us. Don't get any of your germs on this side of the line here. There we go. See, you got the directional cough that we have there. I appreciate that.
Yep.
Will you make this the flu game? I'm hoping that this is your Michael Jordan flu game here with this show.
I don't know. There's 30% of this.
It's the playoffs.
It sure
You
is.
got to step up.
Yeah, no, there's some part of this that I'm like, just find a way to get through it. It's going to suck. I'm not going to lie to you. This is going to suck right now, but in the postseason, you got to get through it.
I can hear it in your voice, man. But hey, he's sitting here, and the reason why is because the man loves ball. And because we had some really good playoff games this entire weekend. The Saturday games were great. The Sunday games, obviously. We still have one more to go. Steelers play the Houston Texans tonight on Monday Night Football, which, don't worry, guys. We will be back with you tomorrow morning for a little abbreviated show. We'll give you the recap there of that one. Plus, of course, we'll do a little mock drafting for all of those teams that aren't not in the postseason right now. But, Dalton, let's just kick it off. Let's get right to it. Let's get it in. Let's get you out of here. Making sure that you have enough time to be able to power through. Let's start with Saturday, baby.
Yep.
Let's get the Los Angeles Rams traveling to the Carolina Panthers, which I know Panthers fans, no moral victories. They were right in that game. I think if you asked most Panthers fans before the game, even with that win against the Rams earlier in the season, probably would have told you, yeah, it might be a long shot this week for us to get the better of the Rams again. This game went down to the wire once again. Carolina played incredibly well. 3-point game once again, except for, unfortunately for Carolina, and fortunately for the Rams. The Rams and the visiting team were on the better side of this. 34-31 was the final score here. Let's take a look at the top 5 graded players for each team before we break down exactly how this game came to be. Top 5 graded players for the Los Angeles Rams. Defensive tackle Poona Ford at the top of their list with an 89.5. Offensive tackle Alaric Jackson with a 79.0. Wide receiver Puka Nacua a 76.9 in this game. Edge rusher Byron Young a 74.8. And then edge rusher Jared Verse with a 74.1. Matthew Stafford in this one a 63.1. I'm going to break down a little bit how, man, he looked rattled in this game. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. The top 5 graded players for the Panthers, cornerback Mike Jackson. Incredible game against his former team. An elite 90.4 overall grade. He was awesome. So was offensive guard Damian Lewis, who has been, in my opinion, one of the most underrated offensive linemen in the NFL this year, Dalton. It just feels as though he has been a road grader. I know that Panthers' offensive line is good when they're healthy, which, man, speaking of, tough to watch Ike Ekwonu go down with a patellar injury. But, man, Damian Lewis was paving the way in this game. He gave them a chance to run the ball pretty well, especially in those short yardage situations. 81.1 overall grade. Wide receiver Jalen Coker was excellent with a 79.0. Running back Chuba Hubbard with a 75.5. And then rookie Tetrone McMillan rounding it out at a 72.1. Bryce Young in this game, a 67.9. Dalton, stat that told the story. What do we got here?
So I think we're going to have multiple points here about Matthew Stafford in this Rams passing game.
Yeah.
One for me that really stuck out, and I think it makes a lot of sense when you consider how heavily the Panthers use zone coverage, top 5 zone coverage rate in the NFL. Matthew Stafford throwing between the numbers, okay? 79.5 passing grade, 21-27, 268 yards and 2 touchdowns. When he was throwing to the outside, not nearly as successful. 41.2 passing grade, 3 for 13, which is 36 yards. The only significant throw he made to the outside the entire day was actually the game-winning touchdown to Colby Parkinson, so certainly came at the right time. But otherwise, the Panthers really condensed the field and made Stafford attack the seams. And he did that, especially when the lights were brightest, even through that drive leading up to the game-winning touchdown, really continued to attack zone defenders, attack windows over the middle of the field. That's where the Rams are finding a lot of success. It was not with one-on-one matchups on the outside. Honestly, the Panthers cornerbacks, J.C. Horn and Mike Jackson, they were winning the battle for most of the day against an elite receiving duo, as we know, with Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams. But at the end of the day, Matthew Stafford, and I think we saw this in several of these games this this weekend. As a veteran quarterback, he just understands how to attack every defense that he sees. When he saw all these zone coverages for the Carolina Panthers, he attacked the middle of the field, and he just had to continue to grind away at it because it was not easy. The Panthers did not give them deep shots down the field, and they did not give them deep shots to the outside, except for the game-winning touchdown. And even then, that was super tight coverage and just a perfect throw to Colby Parkinson.
Yeah, that was an unbelievable throw, no doubt about it. You know, this is a very interesting game, and I know that Panthers fans probably look at this and they're probably frustrated with the Giro Evero. I think in the immediate aftermath of the game, because of just, you're giving up all these points, you're giving up a late touchdown. All you had to do was hang on. They weren't able to do that. They gave up 34 points. But I actually really liked how they played Matthew Stafford here, and they played aggressive. They played unconventional to their own standards, what they normally do, and I think that it worked. When you look at the first 3 drives that the Rams had, Matthew Stafford was nearly perfect through those first 3 drives passing the football. And in those drives, they saw cover 3 more than 50% of the time. Now, in the preview show that we had last Wednesday, I brought up the fact that there's only one team that plays more cover 3 or a higher percentage of their snaps in cover 3 than the Panthers, and that was Pete Carroll and the Raiders, as you would expect. So for all intents and purposes, this team plays cover 3 more than basically any other team in the NFL. You mentioned the seam shots and just the throwing windows that you would have through zone on cover 3, on 3 seam, on some cover 6 looks. Like Matthew Stafford was just ready to attack those. But then throughout the rest of the game, if you get outside of those first 3 drives, Matthew Stafford had just a 55.2 passing grade. He was 18 for 36. He had 3 big-time throws, but he also had 3 turnover-worthy plays. And if you get past those first 3 drives, the Panthers actually played more quarters coverage than anything else. So to start the game, well, I should say through the whole season, most of the entire season, they have played cover 3, I don't want to say majority of the time because it wasn't, but the most out of any coverage shell. To start the game, that's exactly what they did. Matthew Stafford was performing very well. He knew exactly where to go with the football. And then credit to Evero and the players for being able to switch things up. And I don't think Stafford was ready for that. Now, of course, he still had the 3 big-time throws, but he put the ball in harm's way, and he was ineffective and inaccurate, much more so than you would have expected for a guy who could very well win the MVP trophy. So I thought the stat that told the story was actually the fact that, yes, the Rams scored 34 points. This game could have gotten far more out of hand, and Carolina couldn't have even had a shot in the fourth quarter if Carolina doesn't switch up what they do. So it was announced that Evero is going to be getting some head coaching looks like he has been over the last couple of head coaching cycles. I believe Dave Canales, right after the game, was even asked about Ejiro Evero, and he said 100% Ejiro Evero is going to be back next year. Now, obviously, if he takes a head coaching job somewhere else, he could leave. But it certainly sounds like he's going to be back. And right after the game, I was right there with Panther fans, and I was like, oh boy, not a good showing from Evero. But going into more of these numbers, I actually had a lot more respect for the game plan. And in a game where you were double-digit underdogs anyways, the way that they changed how they played defense, not just from the start of the game, but from who they were the entire season, I thought was pretty impressive in what kept this game close.
Yeah, no, they bothered Stafford with their blitz packages, right? They blitzed him 40% of the time. And you mentioned it, the switch in coverage. Early in the game, the first touchdown was the best example. They were getting beat down the seams. You have to get out of cover 3 when you're getting beat up the seams like that. You drop into cover 4. You make him work underneath. Because if nothing else, look, and the Panthers, we have to do this in the context, too, of the Panthers still have a very flawed defense, right? The struggle at linebacker, safety position has been working to gel together all season. The pass rush is not elite. So doing what you can against an offense like this, I don't know that you could ask their defense to do anymore. And again, even the game-winning touchdown, super tight coverage, just got beat by a Hall of Fame quarterback with a perfect throw, right? Yep. I mean, it is what it is at that point. But no, I'm with you. I think the Panthers and Panther fans, they should be very proud of the way their team, the way that their team played in this game, considering they fought to the end. They didn't execute on the last drive where they could have tied the game, obviously. But I think when you look at the way Bryce Young punched back through an early deficit, the way The offense as a whole made big plays, and they attacked when they needed to. And then the defense did tighten the strings a bit through the middle portion of this game. Sometimes you just run into a team with the Rams where they find a way to do it, right? They find a way in the last 3 minutes. Matthew Stafford has made more of these comebacks than any other active quarterback in football right now. You look at it in that context, and you just go, you know what? You played a great game, just came up one play short.
Yep. And just I know that the Panthers beat the Rams earlier this season, so it's weird to say, but like, I just don't think the Panthers are there yet as a team.
Agreed.
I think that this is a great building block for them. And, man, how great was Jalen Coker in this game? I know you're going to talk about one of the other Panthers for most impressive, but my most impressive was Jalen Coker, because you get an undrafted free agent who has already been playing well, but playing this well, I was so impressed with him. 79.9 receiving grade versus man coverage specifically. I think that when people think about Jalen Coker and what he could be as a wide receiver, what makes him so good is, he's a shifty athlete. He can find those soft spots in zones. He's that like ideal type of like slot wide receiver, and he does do those things. But in this game, he had two catches in this game when man coverage was on him, 59 yards and a touchdown. He was nails. When he was one-on-one with a wide receiver, he created a throwing window. He made tough catches. I just thought that Jalen Coker was excellent in this game. It brings up a little bit of a, what do you do now into the offseason? How do you view this wide receiver room? Tet is the unquestioned wide receiver one on this team, but the receiving room and I would say the receiving production from their tight ends could be a little bit better than what it was this year. Xavier Legette was not the player that they wanted him to be, that they have drafted him to be. Coker kind of did take that wide receiver 2 tag. So are you okay with just running it back with those 3 receivers, maybe making an addition at tight end? Or are they going to be a little bit more aggressive to go get another playmaker in the passing game if they feel let down by Xavier Legette? So all of those questions come up because of a good thing, because you got a good problem in how good the Jalen Coker has been for you as an undrafted free agent.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's going to be multiple questions we ask about what the Panthers are going to acquire this offseason, both in free agency and in the draft. You talk about, do you grab another receiver to add more depth, right? How do we feel about Xavier Legette and his progress through 2 years? Do you add a receiving type of tight end? They got really good blockers at that position. Do you add a receiving tight end, or do you continue to try to rely on a Jatavian Sanders to take the next step? I think there is a question right now at left tackle, considering the injury that Ike Ekwonu suffered going into his 5th-year option year, and you don't have him guaranteed beyond that unless you franchise tag him for now. Or do you attack the defense? They definitely need help at linebacker. I would not be shocked at all if they went linebacker in the first round of this year's draft. If it's a Sonny Styles or a CJ Allen or somebody like that in the middle of the first round, I think that would make a lot of sense. So you mentioned it. I think you put it best when we were doing our New Year's resolutions for every team. If you're Carolina, the theme is don't settle, right? Because this was still a team that was, yes, they won their division, they made the playoffs, they played a really good game here. They were still under 500, and they're still a team with a lot of flaws. Continue to improve this roster, and you can win the division again next year with an even better record.
My most disappointing in this game, Rams on third down. Rams kind of in general just struggled a little bit more in this game. Again, I'm giving more credit to Ejiro Evero in the defense than I am necessarily saying it's something that I think the Rams have a kryptonite or they're not able to do. But 2 for 13 on third down in this game. Stafford had 2 turnover-worthy plays on when he was attacking quarters and cover 1 on third downs in this game. And so they just struggled. They really struggled. And I think that that's been a little bit of a theme here for them down the stretch the last month in the season is beginning of the year, middle part of the year, this team was red hot. It looked like everybody could have said, all right, let's sim to the Super Bowl because this team's going to be in it. Now, they still might be, but they're not quite as dominant as they were in the middle and the beginning parts of the season. So that third down issue could potentially be a problem for them going up to Chicago now, playing a Bears defense that's getting a lot better. So that was my most disappointing. What about you? What else on this game?
Most impressive, real quick. How about the game Mike Jackson had for Carolina?
Excellent.
90 coverage grades, 7 targets, only 1 Puka Nacua catch allowed for 18 yards, an interception, 2 pass breakups. Again, the reason Carolina was so good on the outside is because their 2 corners were just excellent. My most disappointing is actually the Rams secondary, and this was something I was concerned with coming into the game with the play of their corners in recent weeks. I'm entering this next game against the Bears with a worry level on this secondary at about an 8 out of 10, Trevor. I'm not a big fan of what's going on right now in coverage for the Rams, a 57 coverage grade in this game, 7th straight game with a coverage grade under 65 in that span. They are 19th in the league in coverage grade. I'm very worried. Quentin Lake did not look great in his first game back from injury. Kobe Durant struggled just in general. And I'm going to tell you the reason for it in a minute on the other side. I'm worried about this secondary going into this matchup with Chicago.
Before we get to the next game, our game plan of the week, presented by Western and Southern Financial Group, a game plan for your financial future. Game plan of the week actually is something we talked about right before we went live here. And Patriots understanding exactly where the Chargers were weak and saying, we're going to blitz you more than we blitz any other team this year. Obviously, it rattled Justin Herbert in a game that we'll talk about a little bit later, but that's the game plan of the week. If you know that a team has a weakness in one area, attack it until they're able to handle it. And obviously, it was a job well done by the Patriots. Just like every team win starts with a great game plan, your future should as well. With life insurance built like a championship roster, Western and Southern helps you protect you and your family so you can focus on winning today, knowing that tomorrow is covered. Whether you're just starting out, building your dynasty, or looking to lock in long-term protection, their coverage options are designed to match your game plan. Visit westernsouthern.com/PFF to get your free life quote and start building your financial game plan today. Western and Southern, built to win, backed by over 130 years of helping people protect what matters most. So the next game that we had on Saturday, it was part 3, Packers and Bears. Bears come away victorious, 31-27, the final score here in this one. The top 5 graded players that we had for the Chicago Bears, tight end Colston Loveland. And man, we're going to talk a little bit more about Colston Loveland in a second. What an unbelievable player. What an unbelievable game. They got a good one in their first rounder here in Colston Loveland. Defensive tackle Grady Jarrett right behind him with a 79.2. Running back DeAndre Swift, a 76.3. Offensive tackle Ozzie Trapillo had a 75.9. Edge rusher Montez Sweat, a 70.0. Caleb Williams in this game, a 77.3. But man, some highs in this game that we'll discuss in a second. On Green Bay's side, 2 wide receivers at the top of their list. First one's Matthew Golden, their rookie, with a 90.5 overall grade, and then Romeo Doubs with an 88.9. And number 3, offensive tackle Jordan Morgan with a 77.1. Offensive guard Aaron Banks right behind him with a 73.7. Edge rusher Rashawn Gary, a 68.9. And then Jordan Love in this game, a 73.9 overall grade. Dalton, stats that told the story.
You know, initially I was going to talk about how the Bears' defense really stepped up in the second half and some of the adjustments Dennis Allen made, but there was another number that stuck out to me, okay, and I had to go into the record books to see where this stood in the 20-year history of PFF here. So the Bears had 11 explosive passes in the second half of this game. That's 15 or more yards. 11 explosive passes in the second half. Trevor, that's tied for the most in any half of a game in PFF history.
I bet.
Only 3 other times has a team put up 11 explosive passes in a single half of football. Just ridiculous when you think about that in the context of, you mentioned it, you alluded to it a minute ago, what Caleb Williams is capable of and the high-end throws that he is capable of, and why this team is never out of football games, even if things are going wrong early, because it's almost like just a baseball lineup with a ton of power. They can hit home runs at any time. They've got great weapons all over the field. You've got 2 good backs. You've got DJ Moore, Colston Loveland, Roma Dunze, Luther Burden. At any time, Caleb can go anywhere with the football, and he can go to any area of the field, right? Not all of these explosive passes were deep down the field. Some of them were made after the catch. Say a play like DeAndre Swift when he was breaking tackles and working down into the red zone, right? They just have so many different ways they can beat you on offense, the Bears do. And this really has been the catalyst behind all these comeback wins this year. It's 7 wins now, Trevor, where they've trailed in the final 2 minutes of games. It's just ridiculous, right? But it's because they have this quarterback who, no, is not yet a perfect player, right? He absolutely isn't. There's inconsistencies early in the game. There's some fundamental things and accuracy that he still needs to clean up. But at the end of the day, the Bears are just never out of it because they have such an explosive element to both dimensions of their offense. And once again, it's why they were able to pull off this huge comeback. And my other favorite stat from this series of games we've seen between these two teams, the Bears never had a snap, never played an offensive snap in any of these 3 games with a lead. And yet they won 2 out of 3 games. Unbelievable.
It is unbelievable. My most impressive was Caleb Williams in this game. And like you said, was it perfect? No. I think his adjusted completion percentage was below 60%. Yeah, in this game, it was his adjusted completion percentage was at 57.8%. And so you look at Caleb Williams and you look at all the fourth quarter comebacks that he has. He's got 7 fourth quarter comebacks this year, including the playoffs. And Yeah, his inefficiencies are part of the reason why they're having to come back in the fourth quarter. There's absolutely no doubt about it. But you also can't deny him being the one that's a major catalyst as to why they're coming back. This is the player that you want to draft, right? I think that some people might look at it and some people might say, no, okay, I need a quarterback with a higher floor. I want somebody who is going to be a little bit more consistent series to series, down to down. But I'm telling you, you've got to have special ability like this if you're going to win it all. There's just too many good quarterbacks out there that you're eventually going to go up against. Matthew Stafford, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Drake May coming up, right? And it's like there are too many elite quarterbacks in this league for you to not have a player of this caliber of a talent to be able to give you a chance. And that's what Caleb Williams does. He gives you a chance. 7 big-time throws in this game. Insane. He had 3 versus cover 2. He had 3 versus cover 1. He had 1 versus cover 3. He was insane in this game. In the fourth and 8 play, the 4th and 8 throw, rolling out against the grain. Who completes that pass? Who completes that pass?
Maybe Mahomes and maybe Allen.
That's about it.
That's about it.
The list's about 3 quarterbacks long that attempt and complete that pass when you need them to with everything on the line. And that goes back to the Packers game that was in Chicago a couple of weeks ago. That overtime throw to DJ Moore. Everything that went into that throw, the context of it, and he just breadbasket. This is the player that you draft number 1 overall. You have to be able to have talent like this. Now, do I want him to play better within structure in the pocket? Yes. I'm not so sure that Caleb Williams can win a Super Bowl for you until he gets better at those things. For as great as he is out of structure, he does have to be better in structure, and he's got to be able to make the layups, if you will. You can make the Steph Curry distance 3-pointers. We've seen him do that throughout his whole career at Oklahoma, at USC, and now in Chicago. You got to make the layups, and you got to make just those smaller 2-point baskets with a little bit more efficiency, in my opinion, if you want to be somebody to win a Super Bowl. But he is well on his way. And, you know, I didn't know if Caleb Williams would ever even get to the point that he's at right now in his career, because I think that he is better at the in-structure stuff. He's better at learning when to fight another down, when to throw it away, learning when, this throw is not here. I can't attempt this. He is further along right now than maybe I thought there was a world where he would ever be, just because of how Superman he was at USC. And when you have that mindset, it's really difficult to get over that, especially when you're as talented as he has. But very clearly, the chemistry, the friendship, the mentorship that he has with Ben Johnson, if this is year 1, that's why you hear in my voice how excited I am for this player. Because there was, for as talented as Caleb Williams is, there wasn't a guarantee that he was going to get over the Superman complex that he had when he was at USC. He's getting over it this year, and we've seen that so many times. And a lot of times when players get over that Superman complex, what do, Dalton? They go into a shell. They go, okay, I'm going to be more efficient, but I'm going to be more efficient because I'm not looking deep. Because I'm no longer doing what made me a special player. He's still doing that, and he's getting a little bit better at the in-structure stuff. So all that to say, the explosives in the second half, Caleb Williams' big-time throws, some of those plays down the stretch, the fourth quarter comeback, to me, it's so much fun to watch. It's just so much fun to watch. Stat that actually told the story for me was actually Jordan Love in the passing game. Because for as much as, I'll get to Matt LaFleur in a second, it felt like the Packers, we've talked about this, they're hurt. How that defense has been since Micah Parsons went down, it's just not even the same thing anymore. The corners have been super unreliable this season. Very up and down overall. But Love in the passing game, 0.336 EPA per pass is an incredibly high number overall for an offense in the passing game. And I thought Jordan Love did everything he could in this game to win them this ball game. I was so impressed with how he played on the road. He played good enough to win, in my opinion. And it was just Green Bay has been really unlucky during the second half of this season, and I think that's just what it boiled down to in this game.
Yeah, I think the Bears did. Dennis Allen really made some nice adjustments in the second half, and it's not really at the fault of Love necessarily. It's just more about how, if the Bears were going to continue to get beat, it's how they wanted to do it. In the second half, I thought on first down they came out with a lot more cover two, too high type of looks, and they were really aggressive with Kyler Gordon in the slot when it came to defending the run. They really wanted to make a point of making Jordan Love hand the football off on first down and then just rally to Josh Jacobs and don't let the Packers milk the clock, right? So get Jordan Love in second and third and long and see how many of those that he can convert, right? And just take your chances then later in the down. I thought early in the game they got beat on first down a lot. They didn't get beat on first down in the second half. And we have to keep in mind, too, the Bears, it's bend but don't break. They wait for turnovers. They didn't get any in this game. But they only gave up 6 points in the second half of this game, too. Part of that also is Brandon McManus and the missed kicks. But I think when you look at what the Bears had to do to get stops and keep themselves in this game, that was a huge factor as well. And honestly, the way that he went about it on first down, that's why the Matthew Golden touchdown in the fourth quarter was really the one play that worked for them, because they caught Kyler Gordon blitzing on a first down and they threw the screen outside of him and Golden outflanked it and scored the touchdown. So, I really thought it was more so than Jordan Love being ineffective in the second half. I thought Dennis Allen really outcoached Matt LaFleur in the second half schematically, especially when you talk about early downs throughout most of it.
Matt LaFleur, I think, struggled in this game, and I think there's a lot of Packers fans that are calling for Matt LaFleur's head. I'm nowhere close to that. Does he need to be better in late game situations? Yeah, absolutely. But I think Matt LaFleur is still a hell of a football coach. I think specifically the offense is still really good with him. Clearly, he has hired he's hired a great coach in Jeff Hafley, and I don't know if he's going to lose Hafley at this point. But if you're bringing back Matt LaFleur and Hafley, and the team's a lot healthier next season, I feel good about this team contending for a Super Bowl. I really do. But he's the most disappointing in this game. Specifically, you look at the timeout usage from him. Burned a timeout, okay, right before a third down. Well, I won't call that one a burn timeout. He used a timeout at that point in the game, right before a pretty big third down for them late in the second half. And then they get a delay of game coming out of the timeout. Then they're backed up 5 yards. Incomplete pass. Miss that field goal. Then they called a timeout on defense after a Colston Loveland first down right before the 2-minute warning. And it's like, okay, well, you burned a timeout already. You're in a situation where you might need these timeouts here, and that's absolutely what they needed, because on that final drive, they ended up calling a timeout with 40 seconds left, and we got to the point where now they've only got a couple of seconds left. When they were down, they weren't in the red zone, but they were near the red zone, and they put themselves in a situation because they no longer had those timeouts of, we can't throw it over the middle of the field. Now we don't have time. So now Chicago just gets to basically just guard the sidelines, because they know if you complete it over the middle, it doesn't matter. We're going to tackle you, and that's it. And that's mismanagement of timeouts. That's you not being on your P's and Q's. That's not you not having the details down and you having to then use your timeouts to get that extra time to work things out. And it's those little things that when you play in a rivalry like this, and when you play in the postseason, when you play in a team that's this good, that's the little stuff that you can't be doing. You as the head coach can't be – now, a head coach's responsibility is a lot. I'm not trying to oversimplify it. I think there are too many people that sort of like, Monday morning quarterback or couch armchair quarterback, whatever. Like, there's a lot of people, myself included, I've been guilty about this plenty of times, who will criticize coaches on game days as if they don't have a billion things to try to think about. But at the same time, the good ones figure it out. The good ones have the right process. And I think Matt LaFleur is a really good head coach. But this feels like it happens too many times where they're not on the details enough to be able to win these games down the stretch. And so that's disappointing for me, because I think the world of him as a coach. I think he's really talented.
I also think this Packer team, for as much as we go, okay, when they're healthy, they're good enough to go to and win a Super Bowl. The problem is I think there's still personnel issues. To me, the most disappointing part is the Packers, especially the holes that they still have on defense, right? Since week 14, they have the third worst pass rush grade in the league. The Micah Parsons injury completely killed their defense. Right. So at all three levels, to me, number one, the Parsons injury killed their pass rush. 2, they need somebody else at linebacker next to Edgerrin Cooper. Quay Walker and Isaiah McDuffie were their 2 lowest graded players in this game. Walker, his contract expires with the end of this game, and McDuffie's on less than a $5 million cap charge next year. He'll be around for next year as hopefully more in a backup role, a rotational third linebacker kind of role. They need another linebacker next to Edgerrin Cooper. And outside at corner, I've been saying this all year, I like Keyshawn Nixon. I like Carrington Valentine. Personally, I think they're average players. They don't have top-end corners to compete with big-time passing games like this. So I think there's still personnel issues at all 3 levels of their defense that they need to sort out this offseason.
Yeah, I agree. Anything else on this game before we move on?
Don't think so. I think the Bears, obviously, they're feeling good about themselves, but another home game with a hot offense like that, they got to figure out how to play in the first half at some point, but a win is a win.
A win is a win, especially in the postseason. This PFF betting segment brought to you by our friends over at DraftKings. So I'm just looking at some early lines for next week. Obviously, there's going to be a decent amount of movement. We're recording the show on a Monday right after these games are happening. But Seahawks opening as a 7-point favorite against the 49ers. 7 points.
In the division. Round 3.
In the division.
Even for as dominant as that last effort
I know.
was. They only won 13-3.
7 seems like a lot for this postseason.
The other one that sticks out to me are there. Look at the Buffalo Bills favored on the road in Denver.
I know. That's so much Josh Allen respect, and we're going to talk about that in a second because our next game is Buffalo and Jacksonville. But we got some nice ones in there. But man, that's the same line though that they had against Jacksonville. It was at 1.5.
And they opened as favorites, and then it flipped to the Jaguars later in the week.
Oh, did it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I saw it early in the week. I saw that the Bills were the favorites in that game. So it opens the same. So the line opens up the same. Well, there you go. You can check that out over at DraftKings Sportsbook. And DraftKings Sportsbook, they're an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Makes every playoff moment feel a little bit bigger. DraftKings has your back with early exit protection. If the player in your eligible NFL prop bet goes down at any point in the first half, you still get paid in cash. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Use the promo code PFF. That's promo code PFF to turn $5 into $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. If you got a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or just text HOPE-NY. Connecticut, call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino in Kansas, wager tax pass through may apply in Illinois, 21 plus in most states, void in Ontario, restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive the bonus bets, which expire within 7 days. Minimum odds required. For additional terms and responsible gambling resources, see dkng.co/audio, and this is a limited time offer. All right, Bills and the Jags. Buffalo goes into Jacksonville, gets the dub by 3, 27-24. What a game this was. Buffalo's top 5 graded players. See who's number 1 on this list, Dalton? Throwback. What year is this?
Boy.
Is this 2019? Cornerback Tre'Davious White, 81.7 overall grade. Wide receiver Khalil Shakir with an 81.6. Linebacker Shaq Thompson. I say again, what year is this? 81.3. Wide receiver Brandon Cooks, once again. Dalton. What's going on here?
Even number 5 there, considering what we've seen the last couple of years.
Matt Milano. Brandon Cooks is 73.4 overall grade. Linebacker Matt Milano is 71.6. Pretty sure Matt Milano got the first tackle of this game, and I was like, oh boy. Oh boy.
Are we back?
If Matt Milano's feeling it, Jacksonville might be in trouble. Josh Allen, that name at the bottom there, don't know if you've heard of him. 94.0 overall grade. On Jacksonville's side, wide receiver Parker Washington, their top graded player, 89.4 overall grade. Defensive tackle Eric Armstead with an 81.4. Running back Travis Etienne Jr. with a 76.2. Offensive guard Ezra Cleveland a 75.5. And then edge rusher Josh Hines Allen with a 74.6. Trevor Lawrence in this game, a 62.1 overall grade. Dalton, stat that told the story.
I'll be honest with you, this was an even game between 2 really good football teams, and Jacksonville at times got hot and their offense got rolling. The Bills, obviously, with Josh Allen carrying the load, they looked really good throughout the day. It just came down to 2 quarterbacks, and one stepped up in the big moment, and the other one didn't. You look at the 2, to me, the 2 quarterback grades you just showed right there. A 94 for Josh Allen is elite stuff, one of the best games of his career, and for Trevor Lawrence, a 62.1. And that was always the theory coming into this game and into this postseason, right? Was, okay, if Trevor Lawrence stays as hot as he was the last 6 weeks of the season, this team can go all the way. Playing like this, just couldn't get it done because you have to be able to have your quarterback playing at an elite level to outduel Josh Allen in a postseason game, one of the greatest postseason performers of all time. In a clean pocket, Josh Allen, 91.6 passing grade. Trevor Lawrence, 54.9. So, I mean, he just had opportunities. The Bills' pass rush wasn't all over him all day or anything. It's just that he missed some throws, and it looked like the chemistry in this game wasn't quite on with his receivers when it came to reading coverages, knowing where to be, knowing where to go with the football, right? I think just at all levels, the Jaguars' passing game was inconsistent. It wasn't awful. There were times where it did look good and they were making plays, but it was inconsistent for sure. And then passing vertically down the field, which we've talked about all year as an X factor for Jacksonville. Trevor Lawrence, 10-plus yard throws, 6 for 13, 59.5 passing grade, 2 interceptions. Josh Allen, 7 for 11, 3 big-time throws, 95.7 passing grade on those vertical passes. That was the difference in the game. Buffalo was just more consistent in the passing game. Josh Allen was more consistent throughout the 60 minutes of this game than Trevor Lawrence was.
Yeah, I think that the stat that tells the story is honestly a lot of the key metrics that you look at when it comes to the results of games. The Bills won the turnover. The Bills did win the turnover battle 2-1. They also won the time possession 33-49 to 26-11. They were 50% on third down. So anytime you're 50% or greater on third down, that's a pretty good day. They were 100% on fourth down, and they were 100% in the red zone. You tell me, if you win those 5 categories, you probably won the football game.
Don't tell Philadelphia that.
Well.
Anyway.
Okay, we'll get to Philadelphia here in a second. I also think that with this game specifically, and I want to talk about Trevor Lawrence here a little bit more in a second, but when you – so this was – you opened what you said about this game by saying, hey, this is 2 really good teams going at it. I do agree that this was 2 really good teams. But I will also say that this was 2 really good teams who both played below the level that they can and should play, in my opinion, on offense. So these are good teams, but I think that both of them played a little bit lower than their expectations. The Bills weren't able to run the ball the way that they needed to. They weren't able to get the tight ends involved as much as they wanted to, I think, with Dalton Kincaid. They didn't really have that much outside of Khalil Shakir that they consistently went to in the passing game. And when it came to the Jags, they had some explosive plays here and there, but for the most part, Trevor Lawrence was not the quarterback that they needed him to be, and we'll talk about that a little bit more here in a second. But the reason why I wanted to bring that up is because this became what we have said all year, where the Bills get very dangerous when they just go, Josh, please, Josh, just do the thing. Just save us. And the thing about the Bills is there is maybe a capped ceiling at if you just make Josh Allen the plan and that's it. You need somebody to complement him here. The tight end's got to get it going. James Cook's got to get it going. So, in order to unlock what the Bills need to unlock, in my opinion, to win the Super Bowl, it's got to be more than Josh Allen. And we have talked about that throughout the season. So the ceiling overall in this offense, when the plan is just Josh Allen, please save us, is lower than what it could be for this Bills team. However, with that game plan and that player, that floor is a lot higher than it is for basically every team in the NFL. And this was one of those games where Jacksonville found out just how high the floor is when the game plan is even just as simple as Josh Allen save us. Because that's saying that sounds like an insult, right? It sounds like an insult. Oh, the play calling's not working. The run game's not going well. They don't have anybody separating down the field. It's their quarterback, and that's it. Well, when you have Josh freaking Allen, that's it. The Jags just figured out how good you still have to be to beat that player because they weren't even able to do it. So I think that was a big takeaway for me, is that for a big part of this season, you and I and a lot of people have talked about what are the Bills beyond Josh Allen, and we get worried about them winning a Super Bowl. The defense is something a little different, which I'll talk about here in a second. But I'm saying on offense, we get a little bit worried when it's just so much on Allen's plate. We want them to be able to divvy it up a little bit more than that. But even when it's all on Josh Allen's plate, it's still a damn tomahawk steak. It's still filling the whole damn plate. And that is something that's so difficult for teams to be able to match up with. How good, how freakishly talented this player is. And Jacksonville, I think, fell out the hard way, how high that floor is when you just give the ball to Josh Allen.
And this is why the Bills are under so much scrutiny right now for this postseason run, because Kansas City especially is not in this playoffs. Because we walk into the playoffs every year and we go, okay, Patrick Mahomes is the greatest singular force in the postseason field, right? Just because of the way he can carry the Chiefs to wins, right? Without Mahomes, Josh Allen is the greatest singular force of any player in this postseason, right? And that's going to continue to be the case. And I think when it comes to Allen having to carry them to wins, you can't do that every week in the regular season, because honestly, eventually he's going to get banged up enough that he won't be able to play. But in a one-game scenario, this is not the guy I'm trying to play. And he's got a hand injury, he's got a foot injury, he's got this and that, he's getting banged up early in this game. And he's going to keep coming because it's do or die, right? If they lose, he's going home. He can recover from the injuries in the offseason. They got to find a way to win, and their way to do it is just, listen, 17, it's your ball game. That's the best way I can put it, is that he's the greatest singular force left in these playoffs. Mm-hmm. And if you're going to say, okay, if you're going to go...
That's why they're favored on the road again.
Right, and if you're going to go through every team remaining and go, why can they win a Super Bowl? This Bills team, you point to one person and one person only, and that's number 17, and he proved again why in this game.
I thought Trevor Lawrence played tight in this game.
Yep.
I thought I don't think it was like a terrible game plan, although there were plenty of tight windows. I mean,
I don't think he saw the field very well.
No, he didn't, which is interesting because I believe he said earlier this week how, like, the Bills play a lot of the same like types of coverages and things like that. And I really do feel as though McDermott did a great job changing things up pre and post snap. It would look one way pre-snap, and I think that's why Lawrence was hesitant. I think that's why he was tight. I think that's why he was off target, especially in that first quarter. That first quarter, you watch a couple of those throws, and you're like, whoa, why is he throwing the ball there? And I just think it's the zones shifted a little bit. One defender's creeping a little bit more towards the middle of the field than he thought was going to, and it kind of spooked him a little bit. And second half was a little bit better for him when he settled in, but I just felt as though McDermott and that defense made Trevor Lawrence second guess what he was seeing pre-snap all game long. So it's a credit to Buffalo for sure. And unfortunately for Lawrence, it was just a game where you've looked at the last month and we talk about how confidently he has played. And it's because you're confident in what you're seeing pre and post snap. In this game, he clearly was just not confident in what he was seeing post snap.
And I think, was it you that was mentioning to me, I think maybe even on this show, about Trevor Lawrence? It feels like there's times where he predetermines throws and he's just gonna let it rip.
Yeah, no, it was. We were talking about this yesterday.
I think a huge play in this game was early on the interception he threw to Shaq Thompson, which was kind of one of those plays, one of those throws he made where he made an assumption and he was just a little bit wrong, right? And Thompson, being the wily veteran that he's been around a long time. Because what you had on that play is the Bills, they were in a Tampa 2 look, right, with Shaq Thompson as that Tampa guy in the middle of the field. And to Lawrence's right, you've got two receivers and the back to his right. So he's assuming there that Thompson is going to open and flip his hips to that three receiver side. He checks the safety to that side to make sure it's cover 2, and he's right about that. But he didn't hold the linebacker Thompson long enough. He just assumed Thompson was going to go and he could get back to that seam back on the other side to his left, and Thompson made the jump on it and got the interception. I thought that was a huge play in this game because that play made, you mentioned it, Lawrence being hesitant most of the day. That play made him a little more hesitant, going, I have to make sure these windows are here. Because look at some of the guys we had in our top fives, right? Tre'Davious White. Yeah. Remember the ball he almost picked off later in the game too. Right. Tre'Davious White, Matt Milano, Shaq Thompson. A lot of these veteran guys making plays on defense for the Bills, and I think that was a big part of Lawrence and the shortcomings in this game, because you had that Thompson interception early, and he was just a little bit less sure of what he was looking at the rest of the day, and that made a big difference with the Jags just not being able to fully find the feel in the passing game.
Yeah, Wright in the chat is saying that 15 carries from the running backs in this game weren't enough for Jacksonville.
Agreed.
I do think so, because I think that's a little bit easier of a criticism to look at after the fact, because when you look at their numbers, 6.7 yards per rush for Travis Etienne, 12.8 for Bashal Tutin. LaQuinn Allen only got 1 carry for 3 yards. So it's easy to, I think, look at those numbers and say they were so effective. Why didn't they run the ball more? I can understand getting to that, but what we talked about in the preview show on Wednesday, this is a bottom 5 rushing team in the NFL this season. They have not been efficient. They have not been effective. They have not been explosive. So I don't think that was ever really that big of their game plan overall. So I think what they did to run the ball worked really well. I don't think them not running the ball enough was the reason why they lost. I think the reason why they lost is because Trevor Lawrence played tight and he didn't trust what he was seeing. I don't think it was I think it's unrealistic to think they would have run the ball more than that. I'm going to be honest with you.
I think it...
Because they were so bad at it the whole year.
But this Bills run defense has been so bad the whole year. I'll say this. ETN and Tutin combined for almost 8.5 yards a carry.
Yes.
And it felt like when they did run it, the Jags could get to the edges.
Yes.
At their will, whenever they wanted to, right? And they just, to me... There probably has to be an element, if you're going to beat this Bills team, where you have to keep Josh Allen off the field. This is going to be a concern for the Denver Broncos. Their run game is not very good, especially since J.K. Dobbins got hurt. I would argue they're just as bad as Jacksonville, right? How are you going to keep Josh Allen off the field? Because you can't have the Bills winning time of possession and third down, like you just mentioned, and have Allen on the field for 34 or 35 minutes and expect to win. That's not going to work. You have to find a way to flip that number. I thought the Jags certainly could have ran the ball more, if only to try to keep Allen on the sidelines a little bit more.
I see what you're saying.
I mean,
I just don't know if they were going to run the ball more.
You run for almost 7 yards a carry in a playoff game.
Obviously.
Well, you feel pretty good about that.
Obviously, and that's why I said it's hard to look at it after the fact and look at those numbers and say, oh, why didn't they run the ball more? They've just been so bad at it that I think when they wanted to run the football, they ran the football very effectively in this game. So I think it was a good job of them game planning. I just don't know how realistic it is to have asked them to run the ball more, is my last point on that. Anything else on this game? I thought the Jags coverage was super disappointing in this game.
Oh, well.
Because for the last month of the season, we talked about this last week, this is the best coverage unit in the NFL. 87.5 coverage grade as a team in the secondary and the linebacker level, so the linebackers, the corners, and the safeties. 87.5 coverage grade over the last month of the season. In this game, 53.0 coverage grade. Massive drop-off in this one.
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, that's just a testament to Josh Allen. He can make all of that not matter. Because it's going to be – because we're going to hear all week about, okay, the Broncos, they lead the league in sacks, and the pass rush is a lead, and the corners are great, and Surtain and everything else they have on defense. And it really is. The Bills, Sean McDermott can just pull the ace in the hole and just go, yeah, I have number 17. I don't care where your defense is ranked. It does not matter to me. So, I mean, look, the Jags had a great year. They got out-dueled by an absolute legend. This is another reason you look at a game like this, and this is why, for their past postseason failures, if there's anybody out there that wants to blame Josh Allen for them, I'm like, this is what he does, man.
Yeah.
He's really, to me, never been the reason the Bills have lost any of these games.
Oh, Lord, no.
I just don't.
No.
So I'm like,
no.
you pull out things like, because honestly, if
now he gets Denver's defense.
Okay. I mean,
I'm saying it's gonna be fun.
I mean, it's
gonna be fun,
right? That's what I'm saying. But with him, where if it's Josh Allen going against him, I'm like, okay, sure, but I don't care what 11. I don't.
Well, you trust, like you said, you trust 17.
I don't care if you have the whole Pro Bowl defense out there. I don't get. Sure, it's Josh Allen. What do I care?
I feel like Denver's got a lot of Pro Bowlers.
They sure do, right? But and at the end of the day, he can make it not matter. Yeah. That's why they're favored going into Denver, which is just wild.
Very excited for that matchup. Anything else on this one before we move on?
Nope.
All right, there we go. We got 2 more games that we're talking about here on this show. Before we get to that, though, we have a new tool over at PFF.com and on the PFF app, our player prop tool. So if you guys are into betting at all whatsoever, it's pretty cool. We got a video to show it off. Check it out.
Everyone's got takes. Numbers have truth. And the truth is, most people are betting with emotion. Sportsbooks feed on it. TikTok gurus sell it. The hype machine runs on it. That's how you lose. PFF is different. You're betting with winning data. The same data trusted by all 32 NFL teams and the sharpest minds in the game. PFF betting tools take every prop, every matchup, every angle, and run them through our custom models. Built on the best football data in the world. What comes back is your edge. Simple, sharp, and built to win. Want to go deeper? PFF puts a pro-level analytics department in your hands, giving you the same insights teams use to find every advantage. Build your game plan with matchup analysis. Project every snap, every matchup, and every edge before kickoff. Because the smartest plays start long before Sunday. Hit rates show how a player performs against their prop and against defenses built the same way. It's the data that gives you real confidence in every pick. Next, Key Insights translates PFF data into the story behind every matchup, giving you the why that powers your bets. From coverage schemes to defensive looks, it's the context that turns raw numbers into winning decisions. When you're ready to take action, filter through every prop on the market and focus on the opportunities that matter, by game, matchup, or value. Then, shop for the best available line in your area and tap your book of choice to place the bet instantly. Everyone's got takes, but now you've got truth. Bet with data, win with PFF.
All right, you guys can see that if you have a PFF Plus subscription. If you don't have one, Holiday 30. It's how you get 30% off a PFF Plus sub. It's the last day of the sale, folks. Holiday seasons are over. This is it. We're done after today. So if you haven't gotten it yet, Holiday 30. Get yourself that PFF Plus subscription. Get 30% off. You get that player prop tool, but you get so much more. You get all the draft info that we'll have over the next couple of months, the free agency tool, all that great stuff. And then next season, you can see all the grades that we're releasing on the show, all that good stuff. You'll be able to see that if you have a PFF Plus sub. 49ers went into Philadelphia and, brought the defending Super Bowl champs back down to earth. And it's the last time I get to say defending Super Bowl champs for the Philadelphia Eagles because they're out. San Francisco wins this game 23-19. Top 5 graded players that we have for the San Francisco 49ers. Gator great. We don't forget. Wide receiver Demarcus Robinson at the top of the list with an 89.5. Fullback Kyle Juszczyk with an 81.0. Safety Jair Brown with a 78.9. Safety Marcus Siegel with a 73.1. And then cornerback Renardo Green with a 71.5. Look at the young guns up there. Dalton.
We haven't had a fullback in a top 5 for a while either. When's the last time we had a fullback?
Hey, I'll tell you what, too. Random, but sort of in on that. For the first time, I actually created a fullback/utility category in my scouting sheets. Because we got 2 guys that I watched for tight end, and I was like, nope, not tight ends, but they're good football players.
Pull the old Robbie Oots on them? Okay.
Yeah,
Makes
get
sense.
a little fullback. So maybe we'll see a little bit more of these more often. Brock Purdy in this game, a 56.8 overall grade. On Philly's side of things, offensive tackle Jordan Mailata with a 96.1. Cornerback Quinyon Mitchell, 93.1, which is the incredible journey of cornerback play for Quinyon Mitchell to have a 93.1 because he probably had the worst drive of his career. That first drive, giving up 3 catches and a touchdown, almost 70, 75 yards. And then he has his 2 interceptions. It was locked down the rest
Certainly
of the game.
quieted the critics
Yeah.
with a couple of interceptions, didn't he?
Absolutely. Edge rusher Nolan Smith Jr., 80.0 overall grade. Offensive guard Tyler Steen, 79.5. Defensive tackle Jordan Davis, 76.3. And then Jalen Hurts in this game, a 65.9. Dalton South told the story.
And look, credit to Kyle Shanahan and finding a way to win as the 49ers have been doing all year.
Coach of the year. Coach of the year.
I've been saying it since, week 7 or
Coach of the year. Go ahead.
I'm not saying you're wrong.
Because I'm not.
Saying we've been here for a while. Anyway, this Eagles offense is just from beginning to end of this season is so incredibly frustrating. They had 2 plays that gained more than 15 yards in this game. 2. An offense with Jalen Hurts, no matter what you want to say, top 10 quarterback, right? Let's call him top 10. There's debate about.
No.
No, maybe some people might say no. Coming into the year, top 10 was probably fair, right? Maybe even on the back end of it, fine. Saquon Barkley, top 5 running back, right? A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, probably like a top 3 or 4 receiver pair in the league.
I'll give you that.
Right?
Yep.
Dallas Goedert, top 8 tight ends somewhere in there.
Sure.
Right? Offensive line,
No Lane Johnson.
No Lane Johnson in this game. But that obviously takes something out of it.
Good O-line.
But a really good O-line with a Jordan Mailata just mauling people on the left side, apparently, right?
Yeah.
2 plays longer than 15 yards.
Bad.
Just no way they don't have any creativity. There's no way for them to create explosive plays. The fact that they have that personnel and the 49ers are as banged up as they are, including George Kittle tearing his Achilles in the second quarter, and the 49ers are the significantly more explosive team in this game, almost makes no sense. And a lot of the stats that the Eagles won in this game, like time of possession, like they needed to if they were going to win it, right? It was all there, and yet the Eagles just aren't explosive enough, and it's too workmanlike, and it really plays below their talent level, right? Jalen Hurts, 10-plus yard throws, 3 for 11. And we're not talking deep balls here. We're talking like barely intermediate range here with those 3 completions. The 2 explosive plays, Saquon Barkley, a 29-yard run on Philly's second play of the game, and then a Saquon Barkley screen that went for 20 in the second quarter. Think about that. Didn't have a play longer than 15 yards in the entire second half. They run the most rudimentary, simple offense in the league. And it came back to haunt them once again. Because to be honest with you, Robert Saleh on the San Francisco side with all those young kids, they run a relatively simple defense that doesn't blitz you a whole lot and runs only 2 or 3 zone looks, and that's about all you get. And they just tackle well, especially on the back end. And yet Philly came into this game, as they have, I think, in many games this year, with really no coherent game plan. There was, I think I only saw 1 under center play action pass the entire day. Outside of Saquon Barkley's 29-yard early, they really run early. They really didn't run the ball very efficiently. That was their only explosive run of the whole day. This Eagles offense just all year has been predictable. And honestly, this just rolls into the most disappointing for me. I don't know. I know they did this 2 years ago with Brian Johnson when they lost to the Bucs down in Tampa. I don't know how they roll into next year with the same offensive coordinator.
No,
I don't have. There's no reason to think they shouldn't have a new offensive coordinator, because there's just nothing. There's no creativity, and I get a lot of the spotlight even is on A.J. Brown arguing with Nick Sirianni and why has Saquon Barkley regressed and this last year. I mean, it became pretty clear that they were just so much better than everybody else that they could walk in and roll everybody. That doesn't happen all the time in the NFL. It's pretty rare. Mm-hmm. This team never got any help this year outside of maybe a couple of games against not great teams. They never got any help from their offensive coaching staff. Mm-hmm. And you feel for these players, because Jalen Hurts, it looks a lot worse, especially in the stat sheet for him, because he's got no help. A.J. Brown, the numbers are down, the volume is down, right? He didn't have a single catch in the second half of this game. That's the 5th time this year where he didn't have a single catch in the second half of a game. Mm-hmm. That's a top 5 receiver in football, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, it just, and look, the running game had to regress, because where it was last year was record-setting, right? Saquon wasn't going to run for 1,060,000-yard touchdowns again. But it had to be there, and it had to be just a little more creative. And this offense is simpler than ever. That would be the story for me for Philadelphia out of this game. Is I do not know how they can walk into next year with the same offensive coordinator.
Yeah, I don't think you can, to be honest with you. And I think that we went into this week, and what did we say on the preview show last week? This is the worst possible matchup that the 49ers could have gotten, because the 49ers are very bad at run defense, and the Philadelphia Eagles should be good at running the ball. And for some reason, they're just not.
And even throwing it. The Eagles come out of this game with 4.3 yards per play. It's inexcusable.
So when we were watching this game live, I think we were 2.5 quarters into the game, and I looked at you and I was like, why is everything so hard? Everything's so difficult for this team. 3rd and 2, shotgun, 4 wide. Barkley's not getting the foot. What are you doing? What are you doing? You're playing the worst run defense team in the country. I almost said in the country because I felt like we were in a college show. You're playing the worst run defense team in the league. Get under center and run the football. You're the Philadelphia Eagles. There are so many moments like that I just did not understand for this team. And I don't know what the answer is, because there's a lot of people that have really over the last month. I mean, I know that we've been harder on Jalen Hurts and just his individual impact on the offense over the last year, but there are some other people that have kind of like come out over the last couple of months and sort of pointed that out as well. I don't know what the issue is. It's the chicken and the egg thing. Is Kevin Patullo holding the offense back? Is Jalen Hurts holding the offense back? Is the lack of creativity because Patullo doesn't call the plays that have creativity? Or is it because Jalen Hurts can't handle more complex plays? I don't know what the answer is. But I can tell you that this relationship between these two, offensive coordinator and quarterback, I don't know how you run it back next year, especially for how disappointing this season was. Philly was always, like you said, they were always going to take a little bit of a step back from what they were last year. They were so good last season. And, I think missing Lane Johnson was huge for this team. It would be for anybody because Lane Johnson's amazing. But something has to change. You have to switch it up. You have to get a new voice in there. Because even the potential of running back what you ran back this year is way too disappointing for how much talent that this team had. Eagles, after the first drive in the game, because the first 3 drives that they had in this game, which has often been the story with the Eagles before, 174 yards total, 14 points after their first 3 drives. They had 115 yards and 3 total points for the rest of the game. No adjustment, no rhythm, no anything. You had the scripted plays, you had the beginning parts of the game, and then absolutely nothing after that. And this team is way too talented for that to be the case.
Yeah. And again, I think if there was something that was an indictment on Patullo, this year they've scored the 9th most points on offense in the first half of games. They're 21st in the second half.
I believe it. I believe it from how we've watched this team this year.
There are no adjustments. Their offense is their offense, and there's not really much game planning they do on a week-to-week basis, or at least that's what it looks like. And there's no adjustments made in-game. It's just the same things, and we're just going to keep hammering away until it works. And when you run such simple concepts, right, defensive coordinators can adjust to it, right? So Robert Saleh just sits there and goes, okay, as long as we tackle well and we can sit in quarters and they don't get vertical, because their passing game even last year, what was it? Pretty much just chuck a go ball when Smith or Brown are one-on-one. Eventually, you need to find something else there. So I'm with you. Look, credit to the 49ers for all of the bodies that they don't have, especially in that front 7, and finding a way to only give up 1 explosive run in this game on the second play of the game. And, the Eagles controlled the pace, but they didn't do so very effectively. The Niners kept themselves in it, and they did what they've done all year, man, as Kyle Shanahan just gets them through these moments, and they find a way to grind themselves to a win. I mean, it's just an unbelievable job he's been doing it, and I think for Philly, they got to ask a lot of questions of this offense because there's, again, we said it in the preview. Philly should win this game, and if they don't win this game, it's really going to feel like
it's huge problems.
It's their own fault.
Yes.
It really is.
Yes. You could not have drawn a better matchup if you're the Eagles.
Yeah.
You couldn't have drawn. Because I'm even looking at the run defense grades right now from some of these players. Run defense grades below 50 for C.J. West, Jordan Elliott, Cleveland Farrell, Kalia Davis, Curtis Robinson.
Yeah, their D-line is
Alfred Collins, Diamador Lenore. And then you had grades between 50 and 60 for Malik Mustafa, Upton Stout, Keon White. Not only did you get the matchup you wanted, you got the game you wanted. They weren't good at run defense. And Saquon had, what do you have, over 100? I think he had over 100 yards. What do you end up with?
But it was on 26 carries.
He had 106 rushing yards on 26 carries. 4.1 rushing yard average. There's just no explosiveness for this team, though.
Yeah.
They've got to figure it out. I don't know how you go into next year with the coaching staff staying the same. And I don't think Sirianni is going anywhere. You're not going to fire him a year after they won the Super Bowl. But I think that Kevin Patullo, again, is it all his fault? How much of it is Jalen Hurts' fault? How much does the A.J. Brown part go into it? Because it felt really weird. Remember at the beginning of the year when he wasn't really getting the football and everybody was like, oh, you should probably get A.J. Brown the ball more. Well, I felt like, I don't remember exactly when this was, there was a little bit of a shift to where they were like, okay, we're gonna I don't want to say force feed him the ball, but we're going to get him involved. And then they would get A.J. Brown involved, and it didn't really make the offense any better.
Well, because it's not creative in any way.
Right. They were just throwing him the football.
Throwing him 6-yard curls over and over doesn't do a whole lot. It doesn't get him moving. It doesn't allow him to be the spectacular athlete that he is.
So whatever the root cause is here, you got to figure it out, or your winning window is going to shut way quicker than it should for a team that is this talented. Anything else before we move on? San Francisco, we didn't really talk about San Francisco because we were going after Philadelphia because they were very disappointing. San Francisco, to get to this point in the year with no Nick Bosa, no Fred Warner, no Brandon Ayuk, missing Brock Purdy for most of the year. I know we keep saying all these things, but it's
no
just,
George Kittle.
No George Kittle. Like it's pretty damn unbelievable. The players that Kyle Shanahan's great with this team on paper. But I think the fact that you have this much success and this high of a floor when it comes to the next man up thing with them, that's also been what's been incredibly impressive for me. And so they get a rematch against a very familiar foe. I know they didn't fare well against the Seahawks when they played them at the end of the regular season, but when you see a team that you see that roster at least twice a year, you know this coaching staff pretty well, you got to. Anytime it's a rematch of a division foe, you got a chance. Well, and I think San Francisco's absolutely got a chance.
And as much as they did get physically dominated in that game, they still only lost 13-3.
I know.
And if they were to clean up at least some of the run defense things that went wrong in that game, they could be just fine, right? Those two teams, they've played two very low-scoring games. It's been very close to the vest. I think I absolutely, especially now without Kittle, I absolutely get why Seattle's opening is, what was it, a 7-point favorite?
7 point, yeah.
I get it, but also in division, these two teams know each other very well, and Sam Darnold really hasn't played that well in 2 games against San Fran. It's just that moment where you go, and the 49ers at this point with all those injuries, they're playing with nothing to lose. Everybody's going to pick Seattle to win that game.
Mm-hmm.
Look out.
Just like everybody picked Philly.
Right.
So, last game that we had here. I know we got one game left in the week, but like we said, we'll do that tomorrow after we get through Monday Night Football. Chargers and the Patriots, though, that was Sunday Night Football. New England wins this game 16-3 as the final score. Top 5 graded players that we had for the New England Patriots. Defensive tackle Corey Durden with a 90.7 overall grade. Defensive tackle Milton Williams, a 79.8. Cornerback Marcus Jones, a 78.2. Cornerback Christian Gonzalez, a 77.7. Safety Craig Woodson, a 77.4. Drake May in this game, a 64.4 overall grade. On the Charger side of things, edge rusher Odafe with an elite 90.8 overall grade. He's been a great addition for this team. Defensive tackle Tahir Tart with an 89.0. Offensive tackle Trey Pipkins, a 74.0. Linebacker Diane Henley with a 72.1. Safety RJ Mickens, a 67.3. And then quarterback Justin Herbert, a 29.7 overall grade. Justin Herbert now 0-3 in the playoffs. And the narratives are going off like wildfire. What was your stat that told the story here in this one?
Okay. I'm not going to sit here and tell you Justin Herbert was good in this game. He wasn't. He wasn't.
Yeah.
I'm also not going to sit here and bash him endlessly like many other people, because
neither am I.
When he's under pressure 57% of the time, what do you want him to do?
It's more than half the time.
It is. That's far, far too much. If that number's over 40, I'm worried.
Of course.
We're at darn near 60.
Right.
Patriots set new season highs in this game. 75.9 pass rush grade as a team. 56.8% pressure rate. 6 sacks. And they blitzed Justin Herbert 20 times. That's more than they've blitzed any other quarterback this year. Mike Vrabel, and listen, I picked the Chargers to win because I thought maybe in this matchup they could overcome this offensive line just one more time, and Justin Herbert could get it done despite the flaws and the injuries. And I'll tell you what, nobody is going to be welcomed back to a team more next year than Joe Alt and Rashawn Slater are going to be welcomed back to the Chargers, right? They are going to, I mean, just throw the confetti just for those guys getting healthy and coming back, right? This was just way too much for Justin Herbert to try to overcome. I mean, you just cannot be under pressure this often and expect him to make play after play after play after play. And there's games this year where he's done it, right? And he's tried to, even the Texans game that they lost, he tried to come back, and it's just too much pressure. They just can't survive like this. You can't. We've talked about this with Joe Burrow, with Patrick Mahomes in the past, when there's times, like even the last Super Bowl, when his offensive line fell apart against the Eagles. You can't ask a quarterback, because I know that they're going to say, oh, the great ones overcome stuff, and this. I go, no, there's a limit to this. Right? It's how we've seen Mahomes lose his 2 Super Bowls. It's how we saw Burrow lose a Super Bowl to the Rams. You have to get Alton Slater back healthy, which should be
Obviously.
should be assumed, right? Come like August, right? And this interior, rebuild the whole thing. Just rebuild the whole thing.
Yep.
That's you spend nothing, and they have a boatload of cap space too. You spend nothing but all of your time and energy and resources this offseason figuring out the interior of this offensive line. They've got the Chargers have everything else to go to and win a Super Bowl. They have the quarterback, as much as he's got his doubters. Okay, but even last year, he was under pressure against Houston in last year's playoff game, 52% of the time. Can't win. And he wasn't good in last year's playoff game. There's why. Does it fully exonerate Herbert? No, but you can't have an offensive line this bad in the postseason. Right? So they have the quarterback, right? If Amarian Hampton's healthy, right, which he wasn't in this game, probably have the backfield. It's good enough with a better line as well. You got a ton of great weapons outside. You got an awesome defense that kept you in this game for as long as they possibly could have. You got to block people. You just look at all the teams that are still remaining, right? The 49ers offensive line, once they got healthy, spectacular. The Bears, spectacular, right? The Rams, a little injured right now, but when they're healthy, they're spectacular, right? The Bills, Denver, all these teams all have really good offensive lines. The Chargers, it's injuries, yes, but also they need to rebuild the interior. They just got whacked in the trenches, man. And Mike Vrabel came into this game with his defense knowing, we're just going to get after him. We're going to run a ton of blitzes. We're going to run a ton of stunts. We're going to beat the crap out of this guy in the backfield because they can't block us. They can't block anybody. That's been the case. The fact that they went 11-6 with this offensive line should tell you just how good Justin Herbert is. Instead of focusing on this one game where it's, you get to the postseason with a line like this and they're just overmatched. You just can't win big games with an offensive line this bad.
I'm with you. I think the stat that told the story to me is that the Chargers' run game was terrible. 12 carries for 30 yards total. Amarian Hampton had one carry, and then they were like, he's not healthy. He doesn't have it. But if you told me before the game, hey, the Chargers are going to have 30-yard rushing, I'd be like, oh, easy loss. Easy. No question. Because if you could, the only saving grace that this team possibly had was Amarian Hampton being really healthy, and to be honest with you, probably rushing for 100 yards. Because then at that point, New England can't pin their ears back and just get after Justin Herbert the whole time. At least you could have then kept New England off of you a little bit and not been as aggressive. The second Amarian Hampton goes down, the second they stop Kamani Vidal, which that's not like an anti-Kamani Vidal rant there, but the second you stop him like a couple of times, that's blood in the water for Sharks, 100%. And that's what the rest of the game ended up becoming. So that, to me, is my stat that told the story there. My most impressive, I'm going to go with Ramondre Stevenson. 73.5 overall grade, 70.4 rushing grade, 73.8 receiving grade, 128 total yards on 13 touches. Really nice day from Ramondre Stevenson, who over the last month has been playing some really good football for this team. They have got a great duo out of the backfield, which you got to feel good about to lean on throughout the rest of these playoffs. So I thought he was my most impressive here. What about you? Most impressive before we get to disappointing?
To me, again, I'm going to stay with the pass rush, the interior pass rush for this New England team. You talk about guys, you mentioned Corey Durden earlier. Milton Williams, obviously, not only with the pass rush, but apparently headbutting his own coach, and Mike Vrabel was just fine with it, apparently. But you look at this defensive tackle group, combined for 15 pressures, a couple of sacks, and a 30% pass rush win rate. The Patriots, they could blitz whenever they wanted, but even when they didn't have to or they felt like they could sit back in zone, that interior pass rush was winning all day, right? And I think when you look at – I also want to mention the run game, too, with this defensive line. I really like some of the fronts that New England came out in on early downs. A little extra wide off the edges, right? We talked so much about, in the last month or so, about how the Chargers basically can only run if they break contain, if they break to the outside. New England just wasn't going to let them do it, which makes a ton of sense, all things considered, because they are incapable of running between the tackles, too. That's just the whole story to me, especially this interior unit for New England, just dominating the interior offensive line for the Chargers.
Most disappointing for me is Greg Roman. This tweet's from Sheila Kapadia, who does phenomenal work just covering the league as a whole. He tweeted this out and said, 2 playoff games during the Jim Harbaugh, Justin Herbert, Greg Roman era. 1 touchdown on 22 offensive possessions. Chargers have been outscored 48-15 in both of those losses. And then I had another tweet here. This is from Jason Reed, who works for Fansided. Points scored in Greg Roman's last 7 playoff games that he has been offensive coordinator. 23, 13, 17, 17, 12, 12, and then last night, 3. 13.9 points per game average in the playoffs for Greg Roman's last 7 playoff games. I don't know if you caught this. This is a little, I mean, I can understand why and how this happens, but do you notice they ran like a little play action on 4th and 9?
Yeah.
With the season on the line?
Yep.
Now, I won't be too harsh on that one just because it's like, if you have a play you like and you've installed it and you've ran it all season with play action, don't mess up the timing, I guess, and like do the little play action because it's a very brief little play action. But it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good when your offense is played as poorly as they have all game long. You've got 3 points on the board. It's basically a Hail Mary type of a thing anyways that you're even going to convert this. And even if you score a touchdown, who knows what could possibly happen. But it just doesn't look good when you're running a play action concept on 4th and 9 with the season on the line. Everybody and their mother knows you're not running it. So does that in any way get in the way of Justin Herbert reading the field even for a half second because he's worried about, executing the mechanics of what is a play action play? It's just part of what kind of compounds the frustration. And, I looked up a little bit more with Herbert because I saw the numbers of how much he was under duress and how bad the interior offensive line was and all that. However, clean pocket, no pressure. Justin Herbert, 43.1 passing grade. Didn't have any big-time throws. Didn't have any turnover-worthy plays either. His 3 turnover-worthy plays came when there was pressure. But still, clean pocket grade, that's how you get into the seeing ghosts category. When you start freaking out, even when the pocket is clean, and a player as talented as Justin Herbert isn't able to execute the way that we've seen him execute in the past, that's sort of dangerous. That to me would be the lasting I think point just from this game is, okay, Herbert didn't even know what to do when he wasn't getting pressured. That's the environment that we have built for him. And that's a terrible environment to have going into next year, which, by the way, Harbaugh was asked. Because remember, you remember where Greg Roman's last 3? Where was he? So he was the offensive coordinator with the San Francisco 49ers when Jim Harbaugh was there, right, when they had Colin Kaepernick and when they made the Super Bowl. He was then the offensive coordinator for Lamar Jackson and the Ravens with John Harbaugh.
Yeah, Buffalo in between.
Buffalo,
yeah.
That was it. Buffalo's in between. And now he is back with Jim Harbaugh.
Yep.
And so Greg Roman very clearly is invited to Thanksgiving every year to the Harbaugh's house. He is like a family friend at this point with how long he has worked on the staff of both Jim and John Harbaugh. Jim was asked after the game, like, hey, I'm paraphrasing here, but essentially like, what's up with Greg Roman? Is Greg Roman going to be back next year? And even Jim Harbaugh was like, I can't answer that right now. I just can't answer that right now. I feel like this is another situation where you got to make a change. Yeah, switch. I understand that Greg Roman can't go out there and block the guys himself. He can't go out there and play tackle or guard or whatever, but I would just start to really get nervous that the voice in your ear is one that reminds you of home, which is being pressured all the time, and I don't like that for Justin Herbert.
No, I'm with you on that, and you know what it was about the clean pocket grade there that you mentioned. I felt this. It felt like a clear cutoff when I was watching the tape this morning of this, and we got to the second half of this game, and it felt like all of a sudden Justin Herbert went into halftime, and then he came out and he was like, man, I really don't want to get hit as much as I just did in the first half. Because, look, first half in a clean pocket, all right? 70, I think it's a 73 passing grade. Yeah, 73 passing grade in the first half. Second half, a 30.
Oh, I didn't split it up in half.
It's just something I needed to look at it now. I forgot to check the numbers earlier, but when I was watching, he came out on the first drive of the third quarter, and all of a sudden I was like, oh, he's nervous. He knows this game's going to come down to him, and he's about to get hit a lot. And he did. I mean, he was getting, by the last 6 or 7 minutes of the game, I mean, he was just getting killed, right? I mean, the fumble that he had in the fourth quarter, I mean, he took a helmet just right in his sternum. I mean, this is the part where I'm like, yes, Justin Herbert played poorly. Again, what do you want him to do when he's getting hit half the time, when he's under pressure 57% of the time? And all year, this is why, for as wide open as the AFC is, this is a team that we couldn't sit here and consider Super Bowl contenders because of this offensive line. But, I mean, it's clear as day right in front of them. And it's only odd because any team that Jim Harbaugh's ever coached, whether college or NFL, has had great offensive lines. Got to find a way to get it now. The tackles, the good news is that that's the easy part. If they're not spending this entire offseason, again, building this interior and finding even more depth in case more of these injuries happen, because very rarely does a team get through all 17 games with their 5 starters, I wouldn't know what they were doing if they didn't just fully focus on this offensive line this offseason.
All right, here we go. You ready? Signed Brett Toth in free agency at center because I don't know any other center who's better, who's going to hit free agency, and that's kind of the first one that was all right that came into my head, who played decent when he actually got in there this year.
Okay.
Vega Owane,
yeah,
the offensive guard from Penn State in the first round. Chase Besantis, the offensive guard from Texas A&M in the third round. Boom.
Those are reasonable. I'm just looking at other names for center, or you could draft a center. I'm looking at guards right here.
Drafting a center, I mean, could
I'm just looking at guards real quick. Isaac Seumalo, John Simpson.
I'd rather draft the 2 dudes that I mentioned. They're so good in pass pro. I think both those guys is the thing.
Elijah Vera Tucker.
Ooh.
Coming off another injury.
I know, he's so good,
is
though.
the problem.
He's so good.
Right. Tevin Jenkins?
No.
Injuries there. But
yeah, no.
I mean, David Edwards is a free agent. That would be a good one.
Think?
I think so.
Well, plenty of time to fix the Chargers offensive line.
That's just, we got to, unless we just do our mock drafts for them and we just go, just the whole draft.
It just
take 7 offensive
Chargers fans would applaud it.
I would.
If we went just 7 offensive line. I don't know how many.
Throw as many darts. Throw as many darts as possible.
You got to fix it.
Doesn't matter.
You got to fix it somehow.
Yep.
We enjoyed all these playoff games. Hopefully you guys did as well. We got one more. We got Monday Night Football. The Steelers are taking on the Houston Texans tonight. We'll be back with you tomorrow to recap that game, and we'll have a couple of other mock drafts for you guys. We've been cranking out these mock drafts for the non-playoff teams every single week. Like we mentioned, Holiday 30. It's the last day to get 30% off a PFF Plus subscription using that promo code. Holiday 30 is how you get that 30% off. So go check it out. You can see the player prop tool. You can run all the mock drafts you want on the PFF Mock Draft Simulator. You get the free agency tool as well when we open that up. So much more. So if you don't have one, get one there. I guess we'll see you guys tomorrow. For everybody behind the glass, for Dalton Wasserman, I'm Trevor Sikkema saying thank you guys so much for watching another episode of the PFF NFL Show. See you guys tomorrow.